Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights, hosted by LFC Transfer Room. It is just me and Colin flying solo or as a duo for this week at the moment. Brandon might be joining us later. Rigo, unfortunately, his son is a little sick right now, so he needed to give a little extra attention at home. So definitely wishing him the best and his son. Welcome to the stream tonight, and got Colin with me, so we're ready for a rocking show. Colin, how you doing?
Good, Drew. Good to be here as always. Favorite night of the week. Yeah, a little chat about Liverpool. Make the Tuesday certainly better than it was.
Definitely, definitely. And interesting, I guess, in the soccer world news today, Chelsea dropping, or I guess not dropping points, but losing the first leg of the tie to Middlesbrough. Did you catch any of that game, or did you have any thoughts there?
I saw I didn't see any of the game. I saw the box score. The XG comparison was something like Chelsea 2.5 or something like that, and Middlesbrough with like a point like 0.2, and they won 1-0. I was like, that's great. That's really we love to see Chelsea in pain at any chance we can get.
Yeah, they're definitely on the struggle bus, and I don't think
Yeah,
they've gotten as much criticism as they probably deserve. Like when you look at what Arteta's getting right now, what
yeah.
Klopp's gotten in the past. Real quick shout out though to Jay Muse. Thank you for keeping us company tonight. Definitely always appreciate you in the chat and what you do for the stream. So thank you, Jay Muse. We'll shout out to Rigo here. And Paul Lindo, watched the game. Chelsea is Shite. I don't like swearing on stream, but I can't agree more when you're losing to Middlesbrough. Yeah, Cole Palmer with the unfortunate miss. That was about all I saw was that highlight where he missed it. And yeah, and then that Middlesbrough had some ridiculous amount of fouls, but no yellow cards. But Michael Carrick doing an excellent job at Middlesbrough. Even one win against Chelsea is quite a feat at this stage. It doesn't matter if Chelsea's mid-table and not in good form. That's a team that has hell a lot of players. But Colin, building on this, do you think
Mm.
Middlesbrough can squeak through to the final? And assuming we get to the final, would you rather play Chelsea or Middlesbrough?
They definitely can. Chelsea are not that good. We've kind of seen this. Um, I would find it hard to believe that they probably could have a more lopsided game the next leg. Um, I'm it's probably equally likely that Middlesbrough would find a way to squeak through, and that Chelsea puts three past them like in the first 35 or 45 minutes, and and moves on from there. But they yeah ch- to your point, they spent $1 billion, and have what was once considered a world class manager. Um, they should not be losing. They should not be losing to Middlesbrough. You know, there's a lot of teams that they shouldn't have been losing to so far this year, based on the amount of money that they've spent. But yeah, they definitely can. I certainly think so.
Yeah, and I want to keep on the fairy tale train of thinking to the future of the final, like we're
Yeah.
already in it. But I know we're not. Fulham is going to be a big game tomorrow. Building into that, I don't think we can take that lightly. Like Fulham just showed the other day that they can beat Arsenal. I know Arsenal's in a downtrodden period right now, and we
Mhm.
capitalized that over the weekend. But what do you think our chances are against Middlesbrough tomorrow, especially, and we'll focus on this point of it
Mhm.
with the injuries mounting?
Yeah, I mean, the injury concern is real. Fulham are a good team. They certainly can make it difficult for you. Um, give on their day. Um, I would have a hard time believing that at this point in the competition we would put out anything other than a like um, very strong lineup. Um, but I think given we're going to talk about it. Given Trent's new injury, given Dom is out, it's starting to kind of feel a little more uneasy than it was before. Yeah, I think they can give us a game. I think we still will over the course of two legs. Our quality will show, but um, yeah, they're a well coached team, and they on their day, like I said, on their day can cause people real problems. So we'll see if we're up for it.
Yeah, I'm curious because they definitely. Marco Silva has had them playing very well. I know
Mhm.
we beat them not handily, but I thought it was a pretty comfortable win when we played them. Was it
Yeah,
like a month ago?
yeah,
Um, but they've definitely put up good performances. They have a hell of a squad. Like you go through it, it's a pretty decent squad. I don't see them like almost kind of view them as like the next kind of Brighton. Probably not Aston Villa because Aston Villa is like
yeah,
superseding expectations. Newcastle even superseding, but I could see them as like that kind of Brighton building up into potentially qualifying for European places. And yeah, I'm definitely worried with Trent out. Thankfully, it's not for longer than a few weeks, and hopefully won't miss the biggest games coming up. But yeah, it's a bit of a interesting period. It kind of reminds me of last time Salah went out to the Cup of Nations and Jota had to come in and step up, and we're kind of just carrying it over the line. But
yeah.
um, what do you think? Who do you think are going to be the big players that step up, and who do you think should be the starting lineup for tomorrow?
Yeah, you just named the first person who would be on my list, especially for the for the forwards or who's going to be contributing and scoring the goals. I think Jota's got to be um, instrumental in kind of maybe carrying us through this time. That he's been with us in tough times, and when he finds a goal, a goal scoring streak, we win games. Um, we get through competitions, and we pick up points. So there's opportunity all over, but I think Jota is going to play um, a lot. Obviously, he's going to feature at some point, but I think he's going to start. I think he's going to get the majority of it, and his nose for goal I think is going to be kind of invaluable at this time. Um, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Jota in the center, Nunez on the left, Diaz on the right. I thought when Diaz played on the right um, this past game, he was that against Arsenal, where he came when we made the substitutions. He shifted over to that side, ended up scoring the goal from being on that side, and thought he was quite good. Um, that would be what I would think would probably be the front three. Yeah, everything else. It's almost hard to pick anything other than what would be like the top side, because there's not a whole lot of depth at the moment, given the injuries and people away. So, uh, yeah, hmm. I don't know midfield. What do you like? McAllister probably starts.
Yeah, I think it's hard to look past that front three you just mentioned. Yeah, I know Gakpo was kind of put in the midfield for the
Mhm.
Arsenal game at front. I really don't like him in the midfield because I
I
think
don't either.
he's better at dropping back from up front and then running in behind. I don't think he has that space to work with when he's just confined to the midfield. So I really hope Klopp doesn't just shove him in the midfield again because I don't
Yeah,
think that helps his game development either. Um,
I agree.
Definitely McAllister, probably McAllister, Jones, and Elliott. I'm honest, that
Mhm.
might be the best midfield we have at the moment. Gravenberch also obviously a contender there, but um, it's kind of we're kind of in an interesting place right now with the injuries where you really don't I I really don't wanna see, like, the strongest lineup, that we have possible, and then see, like, 1 or 2 players just go down to injury, which, essentially what happened to Trent, so,
Yeah,
um,
could you imagine, like, more? Like,
yeah,
okay, it's now and it will now be January 10th, and now we've gotta figure out some solutions. But you dollar Kate Gordon starts the right way.
yeah, I'm curious,
Uh,
Paul, Colin?
I don't think so. I'll take your dollar bet. I don't think he does. I think he'll make the bench, but I don't think he's gonna start. I and only not necessarily because of the competition, but like I think really like it's a semifinal of a competition. Like I think Jurgen is gonna play the team that the best team he thinks he can in order to win. So kind of if you, I feel like in situations like that will play uh the weakest team that he thinks can get through, that can put in the performances to get through. And I don't think, given K Gordon's game time over the past, you know, even like 2 months, I just don't think that he's gonna start a semifinal of a competition. He is the only left-footed winger. I don't think that Cade Gordon playing there, given his like current set of form, is a better option than um playing Diaz or Jota on that right side. I think both of those guys are better options there.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Colin. I think I definitely wanna see Cade get minutes. I don't
Hmm.
know if he will unless we're cruising, like, 2-0 and there's 10 minutes left in the game. I don't see him getting thrown on other than that. Um, Besides Salah, like, I'm trying to think, like, like,
Mm.
Diaz is right-footed on the left, Darwin's right-footed on the left. We don't
Hmm.
tend to necessarily need that. Um, it's not an absolute must, but yeah, I agree. It's just too big a risk to start him at this point, and I think the youngster that's going to get the nod or has to get the nod is the Connor Bradley. So,
Hmm.
filling in for Trent at right back, I think he had a great little, moment against Arsenal, a great little cameo there, and we're really gonna have to rely on him at right back.
Hmm.
Agree with this right here. Paul Harvey, left-footed but too slow. That's where I'm really curious with Nunez being put out on the wing. Kind of want to bring this up. Wish I could share an image with the stream, but essentially Rigo sent this a little earlier in the day to the chat, but I'll try to recapture it. It's goal contributions from forwards. I think it's a Premier League fantasy stat, but regardless, Ollie Watkins is number one with 20 goal contributions. Erling Haaland's number two with 19. He's been out for a month or more now. Julian Alvarez is with 14. Darwin Nunez has 13, and Dominic Solanke has 13. So I'm curious. Question I'll pose to you, Colin, is: do
Hmm.
you see this as an opportunity with Salah gone? And Jota coming up back from injury for Nunez to be on the left, as you said, uh, Diaz on the right, and Jota up top. Do you think that could potentially be where Darwin suits best moving forward?
It's possible, which would be really funny to think that Darwin, and if you think about Darwin and Cody, like where they previous played, that maybe their best positions for us are switched. Is that maybe Darwin is best being out on the wing, being able to use his athleticism and driving at fullbacks, or uh, you know a, a right center back, or whomever it is, and that um, Gakpo's best position might be playing as a nine that is able to drop in and overload the midfield. Um, yeah, I mean, again, like we say that they are, but the performances they put in at other in those opposite positions are quite good. Um, and I think that they're more than serviceable in those positions. Like I think they're good. Um, Also, I mean, Jurgen has kind of put an emphasis, I think, in terms of squad over, especially forwards, being able to play multiple positions and not having it be, especially I think post the peak of, you know, the Mo, Bobby, and Sadio. You know, as you if you think about where their peak was and kind of coming down after that, that all of a sudden, you know, they really started to kind of interchange even within the game and kind of take up different positions on the field rather than just having those people in the most set positions. Uh, I think it's useful to be able to have them play multiple positions, but I just thought, you know, as a thought experiment, I think it's interesting that maybe their best performances, um, you know, have kind of come in those not necessarily opposite starting positions, but kind of in those, you know, with Cody being able to drop in and create space in behind, or um, you know, Darwin really using the athleticism from that side, almost in a Sadio Mane sort of way. Like, you know, when we had the three of them at their peak, we talked about having, you know, almost three strikers, and it wasn't like a winger, and a center forward. It was like just three strikers. They just ended up inside of their fullbacks, and I think that, you know, they'll find success kind of wherever. Um, in this time where we are kind of short people and we're missing, I think being so rigid in your ideas about, you know, where people have to play, I don't think is useful. I think that limits what you're able to do and kind of how you're able to get the best out of the team, especially when you're lower, you know, lower in terms of numbers, missing people, whether it's to injury or, you know, overall goal contributions not in the team at the moment because of other competitions or injury, whatever it might be. So yeah, I think you know, you got to get inventive. You have to find the way to get those points and those goals.
Yeah, definitely agree, and I think it's interesting. Was it, if I'm not mistaken, Darwin like came off primarily off like the left wing up front for Benfica when he had his most prolific goal scoring season.
Mhm.
And for me, I think it'd be interesting to take that pressure off him for being the sole striker, being viewed as that position. Because I think he's only got one goal in like the last month or month and a half, which is not great
A
for
goal and a
if you're
couple assists, I
considered.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, which like I'm not doing this to pile pressure on him, but just stats wise, if you're performing as the striker, the number one thing is scoring goals. You could say Roberto Firmino, but we didn't buy Firmino as that kind of goal scoring forward. Um, Darwin, I'm really excited, like you said, off the wing with his athleticism, his pace. I'm wondering, and I'll bring that back to Paul Lindo's quote about too slow for the wing, Harvey. I
Mhm.
think Darwin is exactly the speed we won't have with Salah on the right. That having that outlet on at least one of the wings would be great. I know Diaz is
Mhm.
quick, but Nunez is one of the fastest players in the league.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like Kout in a way, where Kout came in as a striker from the Dutch league, and he ended up being a winger for us. Not saying that's Nunez's ultimate
Mhm.
role, but I think you're right. It's about getting the most out of the team. And right
Yeah.
now, I think we're in the situation, like you said, where we need to not be rigid in some sense and be able to get the results however possible. And
Mhm.
Klopp already showed that against Arsenal, where Diaz started on was it started on one wing, ended on the other. Nunez ended up out on the wing, and that's how we ended up winning the game at
Still
those
was able
last
to
10
score the
minutes.
goals, you know, like Diaz
Yeah,
switches wings, still is able to find it. You know, these are really talented football players, Drew, and you know, they're able to find space and find their opportunities, regardless of whether it's, you know, I think wherever their starting position is, or you know, even if they're not a left-footed right winger, you know, you put talent on the field, and they'll be able to kind of return that. I think.
100%. And yeah, here's an interesting. This will go into the three shouts of how we're going to solve the fullback dilemma. But we got from Olivier here. We got Kwanzaa as the shout for left back with Curtis McAllister and Elliott in midfield. Diaz, Jota, Nunez, which we were talking about, or Gakpo. But and then Jay Muse posing the questions: Chambers at left back, Joe at right back, or Joe at left back, Owens back at right. Where do you feel, or where do you think that Joe Gomez, because Joe Gomez has to play at this point, or do you
Yeah.
think? How do you think the fullbacks are going to be sorted out?
I I'm thinking that Chambers. You know, it's a really interesting question. In to Oliver, Oliver's comment, I I don't think there's any way we're starting all four of our center backs, although they are our best four defenders. Who are available. There's just no way we start all four of our available center backs. Um, just given, I think uh, the amount of games that we still have to play while people are out. I think that would be you're really rolling the dice there. Um, I think the 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 shouts, I think probably are more likely. I think it might have been Paul earlier. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me see. Who said as the, let's see, what foot winger or some, oh, it was Jamie's. Harvey might play behind two strikers. I think that would be really interesting. Um, if it was like, you know, Jota and Nunez as the two, like that's a fun, complementary skill set, to play as two strikers. And Harvey's talented enough and I think that probably is his best position, is that, kind of more traditional 10. Um, hmm. I am really struggling over the left or right back situation. Um, hmm. I don't. It's hard. I think Joe Gomez's best position is outside of center back is right back. So my initial thought is that probably is, if you're missing someone, you're going to play people at their best available positions. Although I thought Joe's been great at left back as well. So ooh, that one I've been kind of toiling over in my head even before this, Drew. I don't. What are you thinking there? I'm kind of at a loss.
I just say we go with what we finished Arsenal. Chambers right back, and Joe left back. I honestly think it's better for Joe Gomez on the left, and my explanation for that is that he has to be more turned on. Kind of like this is it's just my opinion. There's no expertise attached to this, but I'd like to think that when you're playing that position, that's not necessarily yours. You're switched on in
Mhm.
terms of like you don't want to screw up because it's normally like your job. Like there's a little bit of comfort or ease when you're in your position doing it game in game out. And you can be a little lackadaisical at times. Whereas I feel like if you're having to play a different position, filling in for something, it's like you're hyper focused. And I
Mhm.
think Joe Gomez is normally known for making like a mistake or two, like just lapse in concentration kind of thing. So I'm hoping that his concentration would be dialed up, and I think the whole
Yeah.
teams will be with the injuries and Salah gone. I think that's the strength of the situation we're in now, is that the whole team has to step up. I think it can get to the point where you rely on like a Mo Salah to like get you out of jail each week or something like that. I remember back to the days when Coutinho was kind of that main man for that season and a half. We're just funneling everything to him, and him leaving actually opened the doors for the Firmino Mane Salah combination up front. I know
Mhm.
he was part of that for a little bit, but really opening up those avenues for the entire team having to come up. I think that comes into play with the situation in the defense as well. Is when somebody goes down, somebody has to step up, and they step up as a team, which is a huge strength. But I definitely say Gomez at left back because I'd want someone. I want as much experience as possible in the defensive line. Um, and I wouldn't want to throw some youngster in at left back or somebody who hasn't done it as much as Joe Gomez. I think he is our left back who has the most experience right now
Mm-hmm.
for that role. And then for right back, let's give the youngster a chance who did a good cameo on against Arsenal and deserves his shot, at least for while Trent's out, unless he shows otherwise. That's just where I'm coming from, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're probably right about. I think you're probably right about that. I think, which Chambers being on the right, then I think would guarantee that Kwanzaa doesn't start. Because I think Virgil is going to start. I hadn't seen anything otherwise. I know obviously he was sick. Had you heard any update other than, you know, since then? I hadn't seen anything ruling him out or suggesting that he wouldn't be available.
No, just that he was sick. That was all
Yeah.
that I saw.
Yeah. So my guess is, and that was what, 4 days ago, 3 days ago. So
Yep.
that's, yeah.
Sunday.
So my guess is Gomez, Virgil, Konate, and then Chambers. Okay, good. Yeah, that would be that's my guess. I don't think that they would put Chambers and Kwanzaa on the same side, although he's looked quite good. I just think that you're giving Fulham the excuse to put their best player on that side and say run at those kids all day, which, you know, I might be totally wrong, and they would, hold up totally fine. That is absolutely possible. I just don't think that you necessarily want to give them the opportunity or the chance to do that. If you have the the ability not to. That would be my guess for, for those, for the back four. I wouldn't be totally shocked if the team sheet comes out tomorrow and it's, out of left field, like totally weird, something I hadn't considered. I feel like every time we get one of these, I'm like, there's always a real curveball in the lineup. I'm like, oh, didn't think that was gonna be how it was lined up, but that's fine. So I'm very interested. Paul asked the question a little higher up. Oh, can you guys think of any world-class left backs that are right-footed? No, I can't, but I think that is more of a, if anybody's familiar with the movie Moneyball, you're familiar with the idea that, like, people overlook players for, for certain attributes, which they overvalue. I think that having a right-footed right back and a left-footed left back is slightly overvalued. Like, I think that there are probably people in the world who get moved to those positions who would be very, very good, maybe world-class, saying, having them be the opposite or, the wrong foot on one of those sides. I think that that's sort of an unconscious bias that people don't consider. People won't consider them unless they are right or left footed, to play at those positions. Joe Gomez has done great. He's done great there as a right footed left back. Nothing to take away from him at all.
Yeah, Milner's filled in at left. Didn't he do that for a whole season? Milner at left back. Pretty much for us. Little asterisk next to his name, shame, but John Flanagan had a great season at left back for us. I know I'm just heavily biased on just naming Liverpool players right now since I know that much from my history, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it's more probably has to do with how the forwards, because we see you have like the inverted where Salah left-footed on the right wing cutting in. Ideally, you'd think the right back overlapping to cross in on the right, or vice versa for the left with like a Diaz or a Nunez or Mane. Same thing, cutting in space
Hmm.
behind. But um, yeah, I think it just goes back to we need to get it over the line at this point, and
Hmm.
I think it's going to be huge for the game to be home tomorrow
Massive.
because I think yeah, yeah. So I think especially if like let's say Bradley gets the nod at right back, having that support from the home fans or any youngster who gets the start tomorrow will have having the massive support of the home fans for their first stint in a potentially a little stretch in the first
Mhm.
team. That will be huge boost of confidence if they can to get the home support and potentially get off on a positive foot for the first game in the stretch of games without a lot of key
Yep.
players.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think. With the current state, do you think we dip into the transfer market now, Colin, or do you think this is one still like touch and go?
I would love for us to just get a left-footed center back who can deputy at left back, and then you could play a back three if you need, like if you really really needed to, not just because of tactical reasons, but like all of a sudden we're like missing a right back, and we're low on center backs. Like just play three. Yeah, I would. I absolutely would. My concern is that we are not interested in that at all, and it is absolutely only touch and go, and only would happen in the case that somebody else would pick up something else, and then we would see poor poor Ben Davies. No,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The center back.
like I feel so bad. Like I honestly like that whole situation makes me feel terrible. Like we just brought the guy in just because we're like, in case we don't really know how good he is, and he was not. But I don't want that to happen. I would rather us just like buy someone that we like, and like maybe overpay by 5 or 10, and like just buy the guy that you like, who you actually think can be a contributing member of the team like for the next 5 years, instead of being like, oh, we picked up 2 more injuries between the 10th and the 30th. Like you know, it just seems like why not one more if you're going to do one anyways like in the summer, like just do it now. um have the extra body, it's okay. I think that would be a good shout from Paul, like not necessarily like my all-time favorite, or maybe the highest ceiling, but like someone who is proven in the league and like can play and will be cheap. Like this is a good idea. I don't know, not my money, clearly.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I kind of want to clip up what you said about Ben Davies though for James and in the
Ugh,
channel because I think he went on a huge rant. I don't know if it was last summer, what it was, but he was
yeah.
basically like that. Ben Davies got paid 60 grand a week for his entire Liverpool contract, or what? Even this stint with Rangers, I think it was before he was eventually
Yeah.
sold, transferred. But I think that would be. I honestly think that's the situation right now because obviously Matip's out for the full year, so maybe you bring in
Hmm.
someone who replaces him, for the future
Hmm.
going forward. But if you're looking at a stopgap, it's probably going to be that situation you described with Ben Davies, where I like, let's say we bring in somebody. Are they ahead of Kanate? Are they ahead of Virgil? Are they ahead of Kwanzaa, Gomez? You know, Trent's not going to be out for that long. So it's like, how long are they covering and where do they fit in? Who's really going to want to take that role on a permanent basis unless it's a player
Right.
who's, I'm trying to think like Joaquin Anderson from Crystal Palace, for that long term situation moving forward. I just
Yeah.
don't see Klopp even like. I think when he did like he tried to play like Fabinho at center back, he tried to play Henderson at center back that
Yes.
disastrous season, and then he's like, I,
That was
I should have played Matt Phillips and Reece Nelson earlier. That's why I think he's going to
yeah.
go youngsters.
I like I can't think of anybody who would take the abuse that Nat Phillips has taken from us. Like just every season, hey, you're going to go on loan. Actually, when it comes in January, you're going to come back and then you're going to ride the bench for us just in case. Like just like it's not I feel bad. Yeah, I shouldn't feel bad because to your point, they're getting paid tons of money. He's getting paid ludicrous amounts of money to not play or just to train, like whatever it is. But like who could you bring in who is going to take the amount of, you know, I say abuse. I don't really mean it that way, but like who's going to take that from the club, at someone you just purchased, like they're not going to be like moved around like that and like just sat way back on the bench. So to that point, like you're definitely correct. It's just like here we are again with Nat Phillips. It is 2024. That was 2020 when when he was when he was deputizing, and we brought him back from a loan and was like, here you go, buddy, you're our starting center back, and like got us to fourth place. Like we're like 4 years later and we're in, it seems like in some cases the exact same situation with the like spending policy and like trying to find someone who can fit in terms of like making the squad size correct. And every year it seems like with the injuries and just leads right into the transfer window. And it's like, well, where's our money we're going to spend? It's like, they're not going to spend it. Like it's not happening unless we absolutely need it as a necessity.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I can't see us making purchases at this moment unless it's, again, I think we talked about it last week, unless it's a Luis Diaz situation or a Cody Gakpo where one of our rivals is looking to snatch up a player we wanted for the long term. But trying to find, there was a question much earlier in the stream that, okay, Jay Muse. Do we have a problem with the club pushing players too hard until they acquire injury? I think that's a very interesting question. And I would say in the past, maybe, but now I think we're seeing across the league how many injuries there are right now. How many like clubs have crisis of injury? Newcastle. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure every single team: Newcastle, Man City, Arsenal,
Chelsea.
Pretty much every team you look at who's playing on multiple fronts, even though Chelsea's not playing on multiple fronts, but still the point
Just two.
being, yeah, that just adds up. I think when you look back, especially when we're going for the quad, how many games that Liverpool played more games than any other team. We've pretty much consistently been doing that each year, making it very far in most competitions. So I think that we've been, kind of the first one through the bricks or the first one through the wall in that regards of playing that many games that long. And now the rest of the league is starting to play that consecutively. So I think that's really a whole league wider issue. But Colin, do you think it's us in particular? What are your views?
Yeah, it's you're spot on. It is, and it's even more than just a league. It is the league, but it is like a wider like world football problem. Like there are too many games played in too short of a time. And when you don't like when you if you were only asking people to, to be to run that much, once a week, like you would not see as many injuries. The reason you start to see it pile up now is like you're playing like we played Sunday, we played Wednesday. Like that's not a proper amount of time for for even world class athletes to recover in that amount of time, and to not expect some of them to pick up muscle injuries. Like it's going to happen, and it happens across the board. Especially it happens especially with Premier League teams, especially who play, like to your point, in 3 or 4 competitions, and especially around this time of year. Like there are too many games. There is not enough time in between games, and it's not reasonable to kind of to the same point about Nat Phillips, it's not reasonable for teams to have, you know, 2 first teams, like, because players are not going to sit on the bench for half the games. Players want to start every game. First team guys want to start every game, and so like, and they're not going to want to, long term sit on the bench behind people. So you can't. This idea that you can just have like 2 like platoons of teams where it's like, okay, here's your A plus team and here's your B plus team, and you could just cycle those guys, back and forth, and that, like, it's not realistic. Obviously, there's going to be crossover, and there's there's not any reason that these players should be having the frequency of games. There's no reason that the like international schedule shouldn't be changed to accommodate spreading out the games further throughout the like league games throughout the year. Like, we obviously we're on here 5, 6, 7 times a week on the channel, and like, the season starts in August, and you go on an international break 3 weeks in. That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. And then you do that every month for the first 4 months. Those windows need to be changed so that you can spread out the league games, so that during this time of year, especially, you're not playing every 3rd day or 4th day. Like, it's insane. It's why there are so many injuries.
Yeah, it's the international. I agree with you. That point bring up. It's just more and more and more like, pointless friendlies. Pointless. What is it? Nation League games. Breaks, international breaks every few weeks. I think it's like one every 5 weeks at the start of the season. Quickly here, Paul Lindo, the extra wages, etc. I tend to lean towards what Colin, though, because I think the prime example now is City. Like, there's always going to be. I always think of that lifelong bench player who's happy to ride the bench, as like Anderson on United, throwing back a name there. You're always going to have a player like that, or my favorite from Liverpool, Lazar Markovic, who's, I know he didn't ride the bench, but skated on a 5-year contract for, I think, 120. I think it was like 60 grand a week. But you're always going to get players who are, viewing it as a job, making a living. But I think City, like, who was deemed for a little while having like the 2 squads, that kind of ultimately fell out when you look at them now. I think they're relying on a lot of youngsters in the squad to fill up. You have players like Riyad Mahrez, Sterling, Jesus, who are down to play that backup role for a little while or rotate, but I think the best players are not going to stay around. Just like Colin said, I don't think if you're a real winner or you're like a real first team player, you're going to be happy sitting on the bench. So
can you imagine if they didn't up the substitutes to 5? How bad? Like, that was the most needed rule change I might have ever seen. Like, the change from 3 subs to 5 subs is like absolutely necessary. And I think it would never happen. I don't necessarily know that it would be the better thing, but there's a real argument to be made that it should be more like 6 or 7 subs, like that, to accommodate the amount of games that are being played by these players. Again, not necessarily saying that is my definite opinion, but like, there's a real argument that people can make that would be better, and it would cut down on injuries. I just don't think, and Jurgen's been on about this for years, as long as I've been listening to him as our manager in press conferences. He's been on about it. So I don't know about unlimited subs, but because then what will happen is, if you do unlimited subs, you will get teams like City who just will continue to cheat and spend, and then they will have just literally 2 teams. Like, they'll just have 22 first team players, and just cycle them through. I think 5 is the right number, especially for now, but I just can't I can't imagine the arguments that people were making in boardrooms about why it needs to stay at 3 and how out of touch those people really are. Like it was absolutely needed, and the extra substitute is better for everybody, really.
I agree, Colin. I think the 5 is, for me right now, is the right one. I think I would really like that you can do it in 3 shifts too. I think that keeps it, because I think then you get around to like time wasting or stuff like that, too much breakage in play. But you're right, like Klopp has been bang. I feel like Klopp's been just that like the first guy over the hill or through the wall on so many cases. Like he was on that about the subs, he was on it about the amount of games, he was on it about referee decisions, VAR,
Hmm.
and he usually gets laughed at or ridiculed or critiqued in the media or on social media, and then you see down the line managers coming out and being like too many games, like too many injuries, like referees, VAR's shambles, like international breaks, etc. And he's really a early whistleblower on this stuff, but um, let's we'll probably wrap up the stream soon. So if anybody in the chat has any last questions they want to throw out for us to answer before we sign off, I kind of want to go. And the final question I want to ask for you, Colin, is I know you said Jota is one of the guys you're going to look for creating going forward, being the leaders. So besides Jota, I want one from midfield
Mhm.
and one from defense. Or who are your leaders over the next few weeks?
Yeah. Hmm. I think I I think the in midfield this presents a real opportunity for honestly for a lot of them, but I think the real like needed leadership at this point has to come from McAllister. I think it's a good time for him. Obviously, as he's just getting healthy again. Um, he There's an argument to be made. He's our most talented midfielder, maybe outside of Thiago. I forget Thiago's on the team still. It's been like a year since we've seen the man. Um, I think there's a real argument to be made that McAllister is the most talented, has maybe the high ceiling would be a good way to put it. And I think that it's probably gonna get tougher for us before it gets easier. And I think that would be a real time for him to kind of step up. And oh yeah, I think again similarly with the amount of injuries, I think you could make a case for a lot of people on defense. I would say Jarrell Quansah. Uh, he's going to get more game time. He's still going to continue to get more game time. Um, he's looked great, but this is the time of the year where the amount of games and the amount of games overall, not necessarily just in this period, start to really, I think, weigh on people. And I would like to see him continue to keep his his level where it's been. I would love to see him really cement himself as like this is not just a kid who's having a great half season. This is like he's one of our top 4 center backs, and he's gonna be for the next 10 years. Um, that would be my 2.
Love those shouts. Definitely Kwanzaa. I think it's so cute. He's been absolutely immense coming in at his age. Definitely hope he see a bright and long future for him at the club. I'll throw 2 different ones out though, just to mix it up. For me, I'll stick with Joe Gomez. Just I think he's gonna have a lot on his plate, filling in at either left or right back. And I was always a huge fan of Gomez. Stuck by him in his rough times, just on the sole basis of what he did for us during the year we like won Champions League and the Premier League. I was just like that talent that he had there. I know he's playing along Van Dijk when Van Dijk was absolutely the best center back in the world, But so like he has it in him. Like he played against Man City, I think it was last year, and had an absolutely phenomenal game, shut down Holland. He has it in him. He just has those lapses, and hopefully he's at his best because we're going to need him along with Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, and Kanate. Kanate, another huge. I feel like he and Virgil are just
stay fit,
stay fit. Yeah, like just already how immense they are, already taking them for granted. But agree with you again with McAllister in midfield. I think he's, especially since he'll probably be thrown in the number 6, which he won't. Which I feel bad for him. We talked about that last week. But I'll throw Curtis Jones as my other midfield shout, just because Scouser in our team now for the next few weeks. Sole Scouser, I guess, at least established, so to speak, and just hope he really continues to be as immense as he has been for us this season. And all right, let's try to go through some rapid fire questions. Chat, thank you. You definitely delivered on the getting your final questions in. So definitely, again, take this moment to appreciate all of you guys who have chimed in today, have stuck around for the stream and commented. Really appreciate everyone's support. You guys are amazing in the chat. You help make this fun for me and Colin, and really appreciate y'all in the chat. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, because Charlie will get on me for only mentioning that once this stream, but really just appreciate all y'all in the chat and try to get through all your questions as we wrap up. So rapid fire one for you, Colin. Look into our crystal ball. Which high profile manager will be the first to get fired? Poch, Seven Hack, or Eddie Howe?
I think it's going to be really close. I think they're going to get fired mostly at the same time in the summer. I think they'll make it through the year, but I'm going to go by an edge. I'm going to get Pochettino.
Ooh, okay.
I think they're finishing like 10th, 9th.
I think I agree with you there. Like, I don't see Chelsea climbing out of mid-table, but I also don't, like, it's an absolute laugh, like a joke. I think he'll get one more season. We'll see. I actually think it's a race between Ten Hag and Eddie Howe. I think, Ratcliffe, if Manchester United don't pull themselves out of it and they miss out on Champions League or even Europe at the end of the season, that they might just cut clean and start fresh. But I honestly think Eddie Howe is going to win that race. I think it might be the case where it's like he did as much as he could and the ceiling won't get higher. And maybe it's the chance to cash in and get a real top manager to take that club, to cement them at the top level, because they seem to be slipping. I know a lot of injuries and then VAR in the Champions League, a lot went against them, but I don't think Eddie Howe is the one that can bring them to the promised land, but we'll see. Another quick one with Ancelotti re-signing at Madrid over Brazil. Is Alonso the best must replacement for Klopp now? Again, 2028 maybe. Colin?
Yes, absolutely yes. 1,000 times yes. He was at the end of, I think it was at the end of last season. Just before the summer, we were on a stream and we're asked like who ideally, and he was my pick. After the season he had last year, I'm worried that the timing is not going to line up for him and us very well. It just worries me timing wise. I can't imagine he would stay at Leverkusen for another 3 years. But wherever he is in the world, when we have an opening next, I would like him to be the first call.
100% agree. I think the Liverpool tradition with him is amazing. His experience, who he's worked under as managers, is absolutely incredible. Yeah. Like, his career was incredible. His coaching career has gotten off to an absolutely immense start. I really hope that he wins the Bundesliga this year. It'd be an absolutely amazing feat. Seems like an absolutely amazing person too. So yeah, I 100% agree. If it lines up, fingers crossed, that that's who carries on. Give a lot of fresh youth energy, a lot of positives going in. That's the other thing. There doesn't seem to be very many top managers who are available, so that's big problem with other clubs. Well, Aston Villa with Emery really did a great pickup there.
Yeah.
Real quick shout out, no question, but Olivier said I think Gravenberch is on the verge of doing mad things. Definitely agree. Seems such a talented player. Excited for that. Give one shout out to Paul. Can my Packers shock the Cowboys on Sunday? I have a lot of Cowboys friends out here in Los Angeles, a lot of people from Texas. So I actually do hope the Packers beat Cowboys because I think, what would you say, Colin? They're like the American
Manchester United.
Yeah, right?
They're the American Manchester United. Most popular team. Haven't done anything recently. Have done not a thing. Just continue to talk. Yeah, I've always found good comparison between Liverpool and the Steelers. That's why I feel like I gravitated towards Liverpool. There's so many, there are real easy comps between the Cowboys and Manchester United. I think there's real easy comps between the Steelers and Liverpool. I hate the Cowboys. I send Stephen A. Smith memes and clips to every Cowboys fan I know every time they lose. And the Cowboys are not good in the playoffs. The playoff Cowboys are a different team, and the Packers are honestly a really, really well coached team. I think that would be, they're probably the most likely out of the upsets to happen. I would guess. I hope the Steelers would beat the Bills and upset there. I don't think that's more likely than the Cowboys losing.
Okay. As we tip towards our American roots at the end of the stream, I think that will be where we can call it. One last shout out. Actually, quick last one. Olivier Lavia's signing has been a disaster so far. Imagine we bought him for 50 mil. Now, I honestly don't think he would have been a disaster if we got him. I think it's one of those ones where a player chooses the wrong club and just tanks their career. I think that happens a lot at Manchester United with the players that they sign, where you think amazing young prospect, and then they go there and they go to die. Essentially, the career goes to die. And I think that would have happened to Cody Gakpo if he went to United. I think that's just the case of choosing the wrong club and just making the worst possible career choice. But Colin, do you have words with that as well?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct there, Drew. I think there is an undervaluation on fit of the club, on coaching, on belief systems and support systems, especially in modern sports. The right environment can really make or break. The right or wrong environment can make or break players. I really believe if we would have signed Mason Mount, he would have been really good for us. And he's been absolutely invisible for United. He has been non-existent. I think it can make all the difference. So don't think it. I think it would have definitely gone better. How it's gone so far has been bad for Lavia. I don't know when that is going to turn around either.
All right. Well, on a positive note, there's a lot of good for Liverpool and our environment and just everything going on with the club from the top down. It seems great. That being said, FSG, I know people have their problems, but I'm going to be grateful for where we are in the season. Hopefully a big win against tomorrow. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. Really appreciate, again, everyone contributing. And I know we can all hope for a big win tomorrow. Just want to say thank you all in the chat again. Thank you, Colin, for joining us. And